I'm Rachel Degar, and this is the Truth About Aging podcast. Join me as I speak to Steve Matlin about telomeres, aging, and how we measure it. Steve is the CEO and founder of LifeLength, a cutting-edge company dedicated to telomere length analysis. Now, biohackers love biomarkers. Today we talk to Steve about his commitment to longevity and his passion that has led to LifeLength being the top laboratory of its kind in the world. Stay tuned to find out more.
Join me and experts from all over the globe sharing knowledge with you about living healthy longer, smarter, fitter and happier. Scientists, doctors, researchers and biohackers. You'll learn everything here about how to be your best you. I'm Rachel Degar. Welcome to the Truth About Aging.
I'm here today with Steve Matlin from LifeLength. Now, LifeLength are the experts in measuring your telomeres. Now, telomeres and measuring them are another biomarker of aging. So let's start right there, Steve. Hey, thanks for coming, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
So why is it so important to be measuring these biomarkers of aging?
So let's just think about the aging process. It's a very heterogeneous process, right? So if we imagine a group of 100 people in their teens, largely they're going to have similarities in their fitness and their weight in relation to height and their health. But as we move forward over time, there can be a big divergency in how we age. Because it's not just about our genes, it's about how and where we live and the lifestyles that we have. So if we think about a group of people over time, 20, 30, 40, 50, as we get to middle and later age, there's a big divergence in health outcomes. Some of those people are going to be very healthy and stay fit and very active and vibrant, and others are going to develop serious diseases. And of course, as we get to 60 and 70, we're already going to see rising mortality in that. And that's because the aging is a heterogeneous process. It's not the same for us, and it can be heavily influenced by how we live our lifespan, and we need biomarkers to see how we're doing.
Mm-hmm. So it's a check-in, and then there are things that you can do.
Of course, of course. So if you think about standard biomarkers of aging, the ones that we can all understand, you can think about things like blood pressure or resting pulse, or other biomarkers like fasting glucose for detecting diabetes or cholesterol levels. These are all simple biomarkers that are risk stratification that change over time and need to be monitored on a yearly basis. In the case of telomeres, we have now available through our company, through LifeLength, a test that will look at your aging process by measuring the length of the tips of your chromosomes, which is the main cause for the aging process. Every time your cells divide, these telomeres are shortening, and that's really a biological clock, because when the telomeres get very short, your cells are essentially old. They become senescent.
To me, in terms of biomarkers of aging, it's the perfect one, because you can can extrapolate out from your results and let someone know essentially how much longer they've got to live.
Well, we don't determine how long someone's going to live. And this is in the same way that if you have high cholesterol, your doctor's not going to be able to tell you if you're going to have a heart attack. These are all risk stratification tests, all lab tests that are not binary tests, right? Tests like blood pressure and cholesterol and so on. But what they're really about is determining risk profiles. So if we have 1,000 men and women who have really high cholesterol, really high blood pressure, you know there's going to be a lot more strokes, there's going to be a lot more cardiovascular disease. But can you say that one person who has high blood pressure will definitely have a stroke? You can't. It's the same with telomeres. We don't determine if some person's going to live 20 more years or 30 more years. We know is if you have short telomeres, you are definitely at greater risk for mortality, and you're at greater risk for developing chronic and age-related diseases. But the good news is you can make interventions that can influence that.
Mm-hmm. Good. I was just going to ask that. So if I came and I had my telomeres tested and they were critically short, and you said, hang on, Rachel, you've got to do something about this, what sorts of things would I be doing?
So the first thing that most of us know, but few of us are actually capable of doing, are things that people are going to say, oh, I know all that, but really, who does it? And I'm talking about having a really good diet, eating healthy, not having a sedentary lifestyle. Which doesn't mean running every day on a treadmill. There are people who I can't stand a gym, I can't stand to lift weights. That's fine. Go for long walks with your dog. Go play tennis, swim. Do something that gets you out of the house. If you think about human beings, we're fundamentally animals before we're people. In the sense that we have big brains, but we have a big body underneath that, and that body needs exercise. And sitting 10 hours a day in front of a screen is simply not healthy. So what you can do is, this is a biomarker that's going to reflect your genetic inheritance and how you've lived your life up to a point in time, and say this is your biological age. You may be 50, and your biological age may be 55. But if you begin adopting a healthier lifestyle, you start eating better, you start exercising, you start managing stress. And I always say managing stress because who's free of stress in modern society?
Happen. Yeah.
You're going to have stress, but the ability, and again, that doesn't mean you have to do yoga or Pilates. Some people say, oh, I don't want to do yoga, that's something that's not for me. That's fine. Read a book, turn off your phone, watch a movie, do something that takes you away from the stress of your professional life or your personal life or whatever it is that's causing you to have problems. Monitor your alcohol consumption. Try not to smoke. Do those basic things, and that's the first step in improving your health and, of course, in slowing the rate of telomere attrition and hence your aging process. And then if you're prepared to make real changes and go beyond that, start thinking about taking some supplements. Consult your doctor, do some good lab tests, see if you need vitamin D, see if you need omega-3s, and of course measure your telomeres.
Yeah, and the recent studies that have come out with the omega-3s and the vitamin Ds, I love those because, in a nutshell, a higher vitamin D level, higher telomeres, higher omega level, higher telomeres, in a big nutshell, because those are very simple things to take.
Inexpensive, simple supplements that you can buy in any pharmacy, any supermarket, easy to take, and the method of action is very simple to comprehend because anything that's going to reduce inflammation is going to reduce cellular turnover. So if you're overweight, if you don't have a good diet, the vitamin Ds, the omega-3s, what they're going to do is they're going to supplement the things you're not getting in your diet, and they're going to contribute to improving your biological function of your organism. And if you then couple that with a little bit of exercise, a little bit of weight loss, a little bit of stress management, you're going to see real changes.
I feel like there's a little bit of confusion out there too at the moment because a lot is being written about telomeres.
Every day.
And there is some misinformation like, okay, so if you were to take vitamin D and omegas, it's going to lengthen your telomeres. And so people think that they can do these and lengthen them, but it's...
Yeah, so the reality of biology is that there is what's called a basal rate of telomere attrition. So even if you lived a perfect lifestyle, you were a monk in a Tibetan monastery with no stress and the perfect diet, lifespan is estimated to be, maximum lifespan is to be about 125 years. Because your cells are going to divide. Now the cells are going to divide much more slowly than they're going to divide if you have inflammation, obesity, stress, all of these things. So when you take supplements, what you're going to do is you're going to slow the rate of telomere division, telomere loss, telomere attrition. But to reverse it is going to take really much more dramatic changes. You've got to think about trying to find supplements such as telomerase activators, and you've got to look very closely to see if those supplements really are effective, or if at least they're effective for you. And then you've got to be very disciplined because lifespan is not a one-day race. It's the hare, it's the hare and the tortoise. You've got to think about telomeres are something that are lost over 90 years, if that's an average lifespan, or 80 years. So going on a 1-month fasting program, that ain't going to do it. It's got to be commitment to permanent change. And that's why it's so important to adopt programs that are viable. I don't think diets as a term are viable because the concept of a diet is I'm going to lose some weight because I've got a wedding coming up or I got to go to this event. What you have to figure out is a way of eating that's healthy and that's sustainable for you. Because if you do things that are in denial, you end up reverting to your old ways. And it's the same with exercise. You can go on an exercise binge and then you get tired and you stop going to the gym, and then what have you achieved? So really it's about trying to do things that are be prolonged over many, many years.
I think the human psyche is interesting. It is that, yes, I've got a reason, now I'll stop. And when it comes to telomeres, you get them measured and someone goes, I want to win. I want them to be longer. And it's like, well, no, you need to do all of these things just to stop them, shortening as fast. And I think to some people that's a little bit deflating. But the result of that, the impact is huge.
Well, I think what most people will all agree is, first of all, everybody wants to be healthy. I mean, our company currently provides service in 40 countries around the world, from Indonesia and Korea to Israel to the United States and Mexico and in between. and every human being in the world wants to be healthy. And what people always acknowledge, but they maybe don't think about, is I think people are more than aging itself, what people fear is the loss of their health.
Yeah.
So if we want to have a long lifespan and we want to live to be 80 or 90, we imagine ourselves being vibrant, being able to have physical and mental autonomy. Because at the point in life when you don't have those things, you don't have quality of life.
Yeah.
So health span is really as much or more important than lifespan itself. And for that, we need to adopt these biomarkers, because the kinds of chronic diseases that we now face in modern society aren't diseases that are going to be cured by a vaccine or by an antibiotic that have a single cause, but they're multifactorial diseases that are built up over decades. Heart disease is a clear one. We know that children are developing heart disease as early as 10. You can start to see fatty deposits in the heart of children who die in car accidents, and they have been autopsied, and they see these things. They may not have a heart attack until they're 60, but that diet that they're having from the very early days of their lives, that's setting that metabolic pathway and their taste buds really for eating saturated fats, for eating bad food. That's what we have to reverse in modern society if we pretend to have a world in which people will live to be 80, 90 and be healthy.
Yeah, that's horrific to hear that.
It's very sad, but I mean, if we look at modern society, not only in the United States and in Canada, but around the world, we have a problem where there's many more people who are obese than are starving now.
Yeah.
And we've never had a world wealthier than it has been today. So it's really a travesty and a tragedy that in a world that there's so much knowledge about what health and nutrition is, that we don't apply it. And really, when you do apply it and you feel you have so much more energy and you feel so much better, you realize you're actually not making a sacrifice to eat well. Because what the key recognition is, when you feel that, you're like, wow, I actually feel much better when I don't eat all those terrible foods. My body appreciates it, and all of that can then be quantitatively measured in biomarkers, including, as we said, telomere testing, as well as other biomarkers of metabolic tests and all these things. Because we're not born with a dashboard like a car. Who here would have a nice car and see a light go on in their car, get your oil checked, the engine pressure is off, you take your $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 car, whatever kind of car you may have, and the first thing you do is you take it to the dealer, to the garage to have it checked.
Breaking down.
And that's for a car. Well, that's a machine. What's more important, your health or a vehicle? I mean, you can buy another car. So people a lot of times they take better care of an inanimate object than they do of their own health. But we need to avail ourselves of these biomarkers. They're out there, and we need individually to take ownership of our health. And these tools are now available for consumers to use to be more healthy.
Yeah. And so tell me, I congratulate you on having what is recognised as the best place in the world to have your telomeres tested. Why is that? What makes you stand out?
Well, the difference between LifeLength and any other company is we measure telomeres at the individual chromosomal level. So this requires a little bit of an explanation. Inside the nuclei of our cells, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So there's 46 chromosomes, and there's a little telomere on the end of each one of those chromosomes. So you've got 92 telomeres in every cell in your body. What determines whether a cell is healthy and will continue to divide is the shortest telomeres. So the only way to look at that is if you measure telomeres individually by chromosome. The only people who have a U.S. federally accredited laboratory in the world today that can do that is our company. No one else is able to do that. It's not a simple thing to do. We're measuring objects that measure about 1 billionth of a meter long, between 1 billionth and 10 over 1 billion of a meter long. That's how tiny these objects are. It's really cutting edge science that we've developed.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. It's really enlightening. I think when you talk about telomeres, you can't not talk about a whole lifestyle.
There's been so much good publications in the last 5-6 years that have really moved from the era of science, esoteric science, to clinical practice. So I think more and more people are realizing that telomeres are one of the root causes of aging, and aging is the biggest factor for age-related diseases. So if we can address telomere length, if we can maintain our telomeres, we are then able to dramatically decrease our risk for all of the diseases that concern us, whether it be cancer, metabolic diseases, cardiovascular disease, and we're actually carrying out studies in all of these fields. So this is really an important area of biology, and I hope it'll encourage people to realize that they can now reach out and do these tests. to better understand their health and affect change that's meaningful.
And cool. And just finally, what age am I going to be telling our viewers to go and get their first telomere test?
Really, I would encourage people to do it as early as they want. I mean, we're testing children. You know, I would say the typical person is somebody who's between 30 to 50, because I think that's the age maybe at which, by the time we're in our early 30s, maybe we get those few first symptoms of, hey, maybe I'm not immortal.
Yeah.
and
My superhero cape is starting to
you
fall.
know, I'm seeing a few gray hairs, or I'm feeling a little bit, you know, something. And that's a really good wake-up call to the fact that all of those, you know, anyone can go out and have a wild night, and you can go out and have lots of cheeseburgers, and that's fine if you don't do it every day. And so the aging process is, as we said, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And the earlier you have this information, the earlier you're able to affect change. You know, what is unquantified, unmonitored, goes unmanaged. So really these are tools to allow us to see how we're aging, affect change, remonitor, make adjustments, and try to optimize our health.
Cool. Perfect. So if you want a number that you can work with, or if you're a competitive person like me, you want that number, and then you want to make sure that that number isn't moving. Anytime's a good time, and I agree with Steve when it comes to telomeres, that it's the most important biological marker of aging that you can get. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.